chosen. Stop everything you are doing and allow these words to anchor into the deepest chambers of your spirit. For what is unfolding in this exact moment is far beyond the reach of coincidence or the random firing of digital circuits. You have felt the pull for days, perhaps weeks, a tightening in the atmosphere of your life that signaled an approaching storm of light. And now, on this specific day, Thursday, April 30th, 2026, the collision between your destiny and your reality has finally arrived. This is not a video you stumbled upon. This is a vibrational summons, a frequency match that has pulled you out of the noise of the world to stand before a gate that is only visible to those whose eyes have been washed in the waters of the wilderness. Do not look away, for the message I carry is time-sensitive and urgent, pulsing with a gravity that demands your absolute presence right now. Because heaven has declared that the cycle of waiting has expired, and the shift you have been crying for in the secret hours is no longer a future promise, but a present tense reality. You must understand that you were divinely led to this frequency because something is manifesting in your house, in your life, and in the very fabric of your soul that will permanently alter the trajectory of your lineage before the sun sets on this April afternoon. You have been experiencing the markers of this transition in ways your natural mind tried to categorize as fatigue or stress. But the truth is far more ancient and sacred than a simple biological reaction. Think back to those moments in the deep stillness between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. when your eyes snapped open for no apparent reason, your heart racing with a sense of anticipation that had no name, as if someone had called your name from a distance you couldn't quite map. That was the hour of God, the time when the veil is thinnest and your spirit was being summoned to the courtroom of heaven to receive the blueprints for the season that begins this very Thursday, April 30. You may have noticed a persistent, high-pitched ringing in your ears, a frequency that comes and goes, leaving you feeling momentarily disoriented. Do not fear this, for these are the celestial codes of your new assignment being loaded into your subconscious, bypassing the filters of your ego to ensure that the wisdom you need is already seated within you before the first challenge of the day arises. Even now, as you listen, you may feel an unexplainable pressure resting upon your shoulders, a weight that feels like the heavy mantle of an old life that no longer fits the expanded version of the soul you are becoming. And this pressure is the indicator that the atmosphere around you is compressing to force the diamond of your true identity to the surface. The world would have you believe that you are just another user interacting with an algorithm. But I tell you that this digital interface has been repurposed by the divine as a vibrational sieve, a spiritual filter that has deliberately discarded the lukewarm and the distracted to ensure that only the resonant souls, the chosen ones, would remain to hear what is about to be revealed. You are standing at the edge of a significant spiritual appointment, a kairos moment that has been choreographed through generations of prayers and silent endurance. And to ignore the weight of this day would be to miss the alignment that heaven has spent years preparing specifically for your house. There are angels currently positioned in your hallways, divine resources that have been moved from the treasury of the Spirit into the proximity of your natural reach, and doors that have been rusted shut for decades are currently being unlatched by hands you cannot see. This is the moment where the internal restlessness you have carried becomes the external fuel for your breakthrough. And if you can sense the electricity in the air, if you can feel the sudden heat in your palms or the stillness in your room, then you already know that the shift has begun. Type Amen if you sense the power of this threshold, for your recognition is the first key to the gate that stands open before you. And what we discuss in the next few moments will determine whether you walk through it or remain in the shadows of what used to be. This is a day of critical precision, a moment that will be remembered in your family history as the point where the bloodline stopped bleeding and started reigning. provided you can hold your focus and refuse the distractions that the enemy is currently trying to manufacture to pull you away from this frequency. The urgency is not born of fear, but of alignment. For the window opening over your roof right now is a celestial portal that operates on a divine timing that cannot be bargained with or delayed until you feel more prepared or stable. You were chosen for this specific moment because your spirit has finally reached the level of maturity required to handle the intensity of the glory that is being poured out. And every sleepless night, every strange physical symptom, and every moment of unexplainable isolation has been a deliberate pruning to ensure that you are a vessel capable of holding this new wine without bursting. Listen to the silence behind my words. Feel the rhythm of the truth as it resonates in your marrow. And prepare yourself, because the veil is dropping, the codes are activating, and the life you knew yesterday is already a ghost of a reality that no longer has permission to house your spirit. If you feel that quickening in your chest, it is because your heart recognizes the voice of the Father calling you out of the crowd and into the inner chamber where the true manifest of your soul is about to be unrolled. I need you to understand the architecture of the wilderness you have been walking through, for you have mistaken a divine reconstruction for a personal collapse. You have looked at the rubble of your old life, the broken relationships, the evaporated finances, the deafening silence of friends who once surrounded you, and you thought you were being punished. But I am here to tell you that every loss was a surgical intervention performed with the precision of eternity. The universe did not allow your heart to break because it was cruel. It allowed the breakage because you were housing structures that were never meant to withstand the weight of the glory that is hitting your house this Thursday, April 30. You were in a season of forced demolition where the false foundations had to be cleared so that the weight of your true calling could finally be anchored in solid ground. Your financial emptiness was not an absence of provision, but a clearing of the temple, a moment where your dependence on the systems of this world had to be severed so that you could learn the mechanics of supernatural supply. You have felt like you were in a tomb, but you were actually in a womb, being reshaped in the dark where no human eye could interfere with the delicate DNA reprogramming required for your next level. This isolation was not a mistake. It was a sanctuary of separation, a holy vacuum where your frequency could be purified and your spirit could be hardened against the very parasites that used to feast on your empathy and your light. Understand this: there are watchers from your past, individuals who were once close to you but were strategically removed by the divine hand, and they are currently monitoring your life from the shadows of their own stagnation. They are waiting for the news of your collapse. They are checking your digital footprint and whispering your name in rooms where you are no longer present, hoping to see a confirmation of the failure they predicted for you. But their exit was your protection. Heaven saw the hidden daggers in their spirits long before you felt the sting in your back, and the sudden betrayals you experienced were actually the Father pulling you out of the line of fire before the enemy could launch a fatal strike. These people were not left behind because you were too much for them. They were removed because they were matrix parasites, energy vampires who had been assigned to drain your vitality and keep you vibrating at a level of survival rather than sovereignty. If they had stayed, they would have consumed the harvest that is manifesting today. But because you were placed in a vacuum of silence, your light was allowed to intensify without being dimmed by their doubt or their demands. You were not abandoned in the wilderness. You were being forged in a pressurized chamber where the heat of your trials was designed to melt away every impurity of the ego until only the diamond of the chosen remained. This hardening was necessary, for the dimension you are entering requires a spirit that cannot be intimidated by the roar of the world or the opinions of the small-minded. You felt the sting of being forgotten, of being the one who is always there for everyone else, but finds no one there when the night is long. Yet this too was part of the divine architecture. By removing every human crutch, the Spirit was forcing you to find your own balance, to discover the well of power that resides within your own gut, and to realize that your orphanhood was a myth created by the mind to keep you from recognizing your royal lineage. You were being prepared to carry a frequency that would be dangerous to those still asleep in the matrix. And had you remained in those old circles, your awakening would have caused a spiritual friction that would have destroyed both you and them. You were pulled into the void so that your light would become self-sustaining, a rhythmic pulse of authority that no longer needs external validation to know its own worth. Look at the scars of this season, not as marks of defeat, but as the intricate engravings of a master architect who was building a fortress where others saw only ruins. Those who secretly monitor you will soon see a manifestation they cannot explain, for they knew you in your brokenness, but they have no category for the glory that is currently being woven into your very cells. The vacuum of your isolation is about to be filled with the rush of a mighty wind, and the very people who thought you were finished will be forced to witness the architecture of a miracle that was built in the silence they mistook for your end. You are not the person you were when this wilderness began. You are a refined carrier of the ancient fire, and the wilderness has done its work by ensuring that nothing from the old cycle can follow you into the gates that are swinging open at this very hour. We are moving now into the core mechanics of the shift, the hidden engineering of the Spirit that is currently reorganizing your existence at the molecular level. For what you are experiencing is nothing less than a total DNA reprogramming. You must realize that the physical symptoms you have endured, the heat in your spine, the pressure in your skull, and the sudden shifts in your internal rhythm were not signs of illness, but the friction of your biological form being upgraded to house a higher voltage of divine light. You are undergoing a profound spiritual metamorphosis where the very codes of your ancestry are being overwritten by the finger of God, scrubbing away the limitations of your bloodline and replacing them with the original blueprint of your eternal origin. This is the mechanics of the quantum leap, a phenomenon where you do not simply move from point A to point B through linear effort, but where you disappear from one level of reality and reappears on another, bypassing years of struggle in a single, concentrated moment of alignment. You are exiting the heavy, dense limitations of the third dimension, the realm of toil, scarcity, and shadow, and you are making your entry into the fifth dimension, a state of consciousness where your thoughts carry immediate weight and your vibrational signature becomes the primary currency of your life. In this new frequency, you no longer chase the resource, you become the resource. And because your internal frequency now matches the abundance of heaven, the things you once begged for are now being pulled toward you by the irresistible gravity of your own soul. This shift is occurring not because you have worked harder or prayed longer than others, but because you have finally reached the state of surrender where your vibrational signature matches the frequency of the inheritance that was set aside for you before time began. It is a kairos condition, a divine intersection where your readiness meets heaven's release. And as this happens, I see the gates of your past being torn from their hinges by the sheer force of this incoming glory. These are not doors that were simply unlocked. They were barriers that have been obliterated, ensuring that you can never return to the smallness of who you were, and that the enemy can never again use those old entrances to gain access to your peace. Along with this destruction of obstacles comes a complete and total erasure of karmic debt, a spiritual clearing where the records of every mistake, every inherited curse, and every debt of the soul are being dissolved in the liquid fire of grace. You are being granted a clean ledger, a divine reset that allows you to stand in this new dimension without a single chain from the old cycle holding you back, as if the last 40 years of struggle were merely a dream from which you have finally awakened. The weight of the world is falling off you because you are no longer vibrating at a level where the world's problems can attach themselves to your field. And as you rise, you will find that the air is clearer and the path is visible for the first time in your life. This transformation feels like a river entering a dry riverbed, a sudden and overwhelming rush of life into the places within you that have been parched and cracked for decades. You have spent so long in the drought, trying to squeeze drops of joy from a desert, that the sudden roar of the incoming water might feel frightening at first. But do not shrink back from the flood of provision that is currently saturating your house. The dry riverbed of your finances is being filled. The dry riverbed of your health is being restored. The dry riverbed of your purpose is being reanimated by the living waters of the Spirit. This is the manifestation of the quantum leap in your natural reality, the point where the internal reprogramming becomes visible to the physical eye, and your life begins to reflect the architecture of the fifth dimension. You are moving with a new fluidity, a grace that defies the friction of the matrix, because you are no longer fighting against the current of your destiny, but are being carried by it. The mechanics of this shift are irreversible. Once the DNA has been recoded and the vibrational signature has been set, there is no power in the darkness that can downgrade your frequency back to the realm of the ordinary. You are now a carrier of the high-frequency light that dismantles illusions upon contact. And as you walk through your home this afternoon, you will notice that the very atmosphere responds to the new authority you are radiating. The quantum shift is not a future event you are waiting for. It is the current state of your cells, the present reality of your spirit, and the definitive end of your life as a victim of circumstance. Now that the shift has been activated and the quantum rewrite of your soul is in motion, I must deliver a stern and sacred warning regarding the stewardship of this new fire. For we are entering the season of the sacred circle of protection and the uncompromising law of silence. You are currently carrying a frequency that is highly volatile and extremely precious. It is a spiritual embryo that has just been planted in the womb of your reality. And like any new life, it requires the sanctuary of darkness and the protection of the hidden place to fully gestate. You must resist the urge to announce your breakthrough to those who still reside in the old cycle, for their ears are not tuned to the frequency of your future, and their words carry the poison of a reality they refuse to leave behind. There is a specific temptation that comes with a spiritual promotion, the desire to be understood by those who once looked down on you. But you must understand that explaining your new dimensions to a matrix mind is like trying to describe the sun to someone who has lived their entire life in a cave. If you speak of the resources heaven is releasing, if you testify too early about the gates being torn from their hinges, you create an unnecessary friction that allows the doubt of others to leak into your field and slow the manifestation of your glory. Silence is not an act of fear. It is an act of supreme authority, a recognition that what God is doing in your house today, this Thursday, April 30, is a private transaction between the Creator and the chosen that requires no external validation to be true. You must be acutely aware that the old environment you are exiting, the energy vampires and the spiritual parasites who fed on your previous versions, will instinctively sense the change in your vibration and will begin to probe your field with a newfound intensity. They will reach out with random messages. They will ask leading questions disguised as concern, and they will attempt to provoke your old emotional responses just to see if they can still hook into your energy to drag you back to the old reality. This is a strategic probe from the Matrix, designed to see if you have truly ascended or if you can still be triggered into the drama and the lack of the third dimension. They are looking for an entry point, a crack in your armor, and the easiest way for them to find it is through your speech and your need to be seen. When you engage in their gossip, when you defend your choices, or when you try to convince them of your value, you are lowering your frequency to meet theirs. And in that moment, the energy that was meant to build your new kingdom is diverted to power their old delusions. You must remain a mystery to them in this hour. You must become a ghost in their machines, present but untouchable, visible but unreadable. Your silence will act as a mirror that reflects their own emptiness back to them. And because they can no longer find a resonance within you to feed upon, they will eventually be forced to detach and seek a different host, leaving your sacred circle unpolluted and intact. The verdict for this new season is absolute. Your results will be your only answer, and you no longer need words to defend the person you are becoming. There is a deep, quiet power in allowing your life to do the talking while your lips remain sealed in a holy fast of the ego. You do not need to prove that the generational curse is broken when your children begin to walk in a peace they have never known. You do not need to argue that your financial drought is over when the provision begins to overflow in ways that defy logical explanation. The world will see the fruit, but they are not entitled to the roots. And by keeping the roots of your breakthrough hidden in the soil of your private devotion, you ensure that the harvest remains yours alone to steward. You are under a new jurisdiction now, a higher law of protection where the Father himself stands as the gatekeeper of your reputation and the guardian of your peace. Let the confusion of the watchers be the evidence of your elevation. Let their inability to categorize you be the proof that you have moved beyond the reach of their labels. You are being encased in a bubble of divine light that filters out every frequency that does not match the fifth-dimensional glory of your calling. And as you walk in this sacred circle, you will find that the noise of the world becomes a faint hum that can no longer disturb the rhythm of your soul. Your orphanhood is over, your exposure is finished, and you are now hidden in the secret place of the Most High, where the only language spoken is the language of manifested truth. Your silence is your strength, your results are your testimony, and your peace is your ultimate victory in the face of a world that is still searching for the path. The final seal has been placed upon your life, and as these words vibrate through the atmosphere of your room, a divine decree is being registered in the halls of eternity that can never be revoked by the shadows of your past or the systems of this world. You have crossed the ultimate threshold chosen, and the mark of the sovereign is now glowing upon your spirit, visible to every principality and power as a sign that you are no longer public property of the matrix, but a sanctified vessel of the highest frequency. Your orphanhood is over. The long, cold days of wandering through the wilderness, looking for a home, a father, or a sense of belonging have been swallowed up by the realization that you are the very dwelling place of the Most High, a living temple where the presence of the Creator now resides in full measure. You are under a protection so absolute and so multifaceted that the weapons formed against you will not only fail to prosper, but they will actually dissolve into nothingness before they can even touch the outer perimeter of your peace. The heavens have issued a restraining order against every familiar spirit and every generational parasite that once fed on your light, for you are now recognized as royalty in the realm of the spirit, and any attempt to hinder your progress is now an act of war against the throne itself. This Thursday, April 30th, 2026, is the definitive date where your status as a seeker ends and your reign as a possessor begins. For you have moved from the outside of the promise, looking in through the glass of hope, and have stepped into the very heart of the manifestation, where promise and reality are one and the same. The divine resources that have been migrating toward you through the spiritual currents of the last season are now arriving at your doorstep, not as a reward for your striving or your human labor, but as the natural, effortless inheritance of a soul that has finally aligned its vibrational signature with the abundance of the kingdom. You must anchor this reality into the physical realm right now, for the spirit requires a material point of contact to lock this high-voltage energy into the density of the earth, ensuring that what was released in the heights is captured in the foundations of your house. I want you to go to the comments and type, "I am the path," not as a hope, a wish, or a future intention, but as a definitive, present-tense declaration of your new state of being. For your words in this moment are the spiritual nails that fasten this glory to the floor of your life. As you type these characters, feel the electricity of your declaration grounding the fifth-dimensional light into your physical body, passing through your fingers and your device, turning this digital space into a consecrated altar of transformation. You are no longer waiting for a shift to happen to you. You are the shift that is happening to the world around you. You are no longer praying for a miracle to visit your house. You are the miracle walking through your hallways, shifting the very molecules of the air with every breath you take. The heavy weight that used to reside upon your shoulders has been replaced by the weight of glory, a burden that is light, and a mantle that gives you the power to fly over the obstacles that once kept you grounded in the mud of the third dimension. As you step into the remainder of this day, you will find that the earth itself seems to adjust its tilt to accommodate your presence, that the sun shines with a different clarity, and that the silence in your home is no longer an empty void, but a pregnant, holy stillness where your new life is beginning to take its first deep breaths of freedom. The search is finished, the hunger is satisfied, and the doors of your old prison have not just been opened, but they have ceased to exist. For you have become the gateway through which the light of the divine enters the world. You have been refined in the fire, you have been proven in the silence, and you have been crowned in the secret place. And now the manifest of the chosen is being read aloud for all of creation to hear. Breathe in the atmosphere of your new kingdom. Exhale the last lingering shadows of the old cycle, and walk forward with the quiet, terrifying confidence of one who knows they are backed by the entire treasury of heaven. The seal is set, the transition is complete, and your new life is not coming. It is here, it is now, and it is yours. You no longer search for the path. You are the path.